And welcome to We Are the People Radio. This is your host, Jason Preston, with my lovely bride, Alexia Preston. Look at the camera.
I didn't fix my hair.
It looks good. It looks good.
All right. Well,
it looks good. Look at the camera. Let the people decide.
Okay. All right.
See, even our team says the team gives you the green thumbs, the thumbs up, so you know you look good.
The green thumb?
You want to be environmentally friendly and look good?
What is even going on today?
It's been a long day.
What is in that cup?
Let's keep that to yourself.
Oh, indeed. Indeed.
Well, let's get to it.
Yes.
Yeah, because today is it's always an awesome show. I know I always say it, but today, last time we came in, we talked about Envision Utah.
Part one.
That was part one. We laid out the framework of all the dirty players here in Utah.
Very entry level. Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the dark. Figure out the dark side of the state of Utah. It has a very dark side. But today we have Chelcie Hope back again. So,
and we should actually say this is we didn't say this last time. This is a 4-part series.
This is a 4-part series. So
there is a lot of information to unpack, as I'm sure you could tell from the first show.
You can't expose all the Utah corruption in 1 hour. Yeah. I mean, that's going to take a lot. That's going to take a lot of shows.
That's going to take all the hours.
That's going to take all the hours. They spent years building it up.
24-hour telethon.
But here's what we're going to be talking about today, because you'll think about Utah, right? Back 20, 30 years ago, Utah was like so on fire for freedom. Like, Ezra Taft Benson, Cleon Skousen, like, even the Mormon culture, very much like, the Book of Mormon and Moroni, and standing up, Gadiant and robbers, and aware of, conspiracy and corruption in government. And a very patriotic, probably the most patriotic state. Are you just looking at your hair over there? I'm trying to have a conversation, and you're over there looking at yourself in the mirror. Welcome back to the show. You do look beautiful.
I thought they were going to cut it.
No, then now they're going to cut to you. Now you're busted. I'm in the middle of talking about all this corruption, and you're over here checking out how beautiful you look. All right, back at it.
What?
How did Utah, which was like the most patriotic state, for sure, in the entire country, right? How did it go to being so asleep? Politics is downstream from culture. Well, today, Chelcie is going to talk about how our culture has been manipulated. That's what's crazy, is they've been manipulating our culture so that our culture would be, hey, let's go back to sleep and not worry about it and allow the corruption to grow. Because you cannot get corruption. It's hard to build a network of corruption in a state where people are all looking for it. You put the people to sleep. You get them to think nothing to worry about. You get them to say, hey, let's just be friendly. Let's not worry. All of a sudden, corruption grows. So
that actually reminded me, because I think Governor Cox actually made a statement. There was a news article about the dangerous culture war in Utah. I'm trying to remember the article. Do you remember that? It was recently that he came out and he said that we need to be nicer in this culture war. Was it Cox that said that?
I'm sure Cox is Cox.
I'll find the article.
All right,
let's put a pin in that.
So put a pin in that. We'll come back to it because we're going to have plenty of time to talk about this today. So before we jump into it, make sure you're following us on Rumble, because we're only with YouTube for so long until they catch on to our ways. You can follow us at We Are the People UT. That's for all of our pod beams, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Find us there. Same with Instagram. We Are the People UT. So follow us, go like, share. And this episode is brought to us by Castle Rock Interior Solutions. They do residential and commercial tile flooring. These guys have been very good to us. And like I say, we've got a lot of great people in the state who are committed to getting truth out, competing with the garbage media out there. Because as we exposed in the last show, and if you didn't see the last show, go back and watch it. It's called, the thumbnail says, Traitors or Saints, I think. And it exposes the players. But one of the things it exposes is the media. The media is involved with all this stuff, and we're going to get into that again. So, without further ado, Alexia, do you want to introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Welcome back, Chelcie Hope.
There she is.
Our incredible wealth of information, mind mapper, mind blower.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, keep up
that
the
was
praises.
Good. That was good. Mind mapper, mind blower. What else? Let's go.
She's just all around incredible, and I can't tell you. Well, part one we said you're the most requested guest by far. Our phones have been blowing up with just feedback, and not just saying how great the information was, but hey, by the way, I have this piece of information that ties it all together.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
So there's obviously, we're just peeling back the layers of the onion here. We're at the very outer shell, but between what you're going to show us today in the next 2 episodes and what people are just calling in with, so we can field through that. I mean, we're exposing a dark web.
Very dark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, today's exciting. So, welcome.
Thanks.
Chelcie Hope.
Thanks for having me back. And I appreciate the viewers and tuning in and sharing, because it's how we wake people up.
Yeah, and please share, because here's the thing is, we're competing against corporate media that is all part of this.
Yeah.
I mean, KSL, I'm sorry, the Deseret News, you think that's conservative, they're part of the system. Mm-hmm. They will not share this stuff. The only way we wake people up is by getting this type of information out. So please share it.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there, light it up, and let's bring these people down.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
Awesome.
All right, Chelcie, what do we got today?
Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just in case, I found it interesting. I think it was within a few days after we recorded our last episode, and we talked a little bit about Mike Levitt and John Huntsman Jr. and kind of the connections with China and bringing China in through our inland port. They kind of got busted, and there were some articles that came out and was all over the news about China's infiltration into Utah and our Utah policymakers and into our schools. So I just wanted to show people real quick. We won't spend too much time on it, but in case you haven't seen it, there's an article amid strained U.S. ties. China finds unlikely friend in Utah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I'll share in the show notes links to the articles, and you can go back and watch it on Fox News. But one of our legislators was on there as well talking about it.
But the article itself, the Associated Press article, was actually calling out several of our legislators. So we're actually planning on doing a show just on that one article.
There will be a whole show just on Utah and China.
And the ties.
It's going to blow you guys away. It'll blow you away how in bed Utah and China are.
Yeah, very. Okay. And that's another thing to realize is too, when we talk about the infrastructure and kind of the digital system that they want like we have before, it's hard to wrap your mind around that digital surveillance, but we talk about China all the time. That's how they do it there. That's how they've implemented their communist system there and track their citizens. And then we find out that China is absolutely here. So when we talk about these things, just keep that in mind. China's influence has been here.
And side note, I think right now there's been a lot of news articles about this recently, about the southern border having a massive surge of Chinese nationals, men, specifically men, coming over the border. So they're infiltrating every which way.
And we will dig into all that
when
we do that China show. Okay.
Their global campaign, they've won friends and influence policy in Utah is what this talks about. China's global campaign strikes a chord in conservative Utah.
And I think you could say the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, is what we're talking about. Let's be clear.
Yes, absolutely. They've made favor with Utah lawmakers, and some of our state officials have delayed legislation and nixed resolutions that would have conveyed displeasure with the Chinese government. So won't spend too much time on this, but you can see she was on the news as well talking about Chinese government influencing Utah legislation. So that is going on. So back to Envision Utah. So part 2, we're going to talk a little bit about the public infrastructure district. So kind of where we left off last time. Didn't really get into that too much, but this is associated with the special district. So how we heard about in Disneyland.
So a special district. So you have, in our constitutional republic form of government, you have cities, counties, states, all run by elected officials, who are accountable to the people. What they're creating now is our districts. Go ahead and explain the difference between a district and a city.
Well, the districts so basically what it is our legislature is setting up instances where these districts basically don't answer to any kind of authority. They're basically their own separate rogue little governments.
Just like if you've been to Orlando, Disney set up a town, and basically it's a city that is owned by the corporation of Disney, and you don't have elected officials. It is the corporation that makes the laws, makes the rules, makes the decisions. It's creepy.
And that's
Are you talking about Celebration?
Celebration.
Oh, and
super creepy.
And if you
right?
start actually digging back the layers on Celebration, there's been some really creepy murders there. Just the vibe there.
Oh, it's so creepy.
And they have rules about how, this is a bit of a tangent, but they have rules about standards like zoning ordinances. So you have to have like white picket fences. Have to have white, so everything looks like a perfect Disney movie.
It looks like you're on a set. But that's the city, but it's because you're not really living in a city, you're living in a corporation.
Exactly.
So that's what they're wanting to do here in Utah is build these. So tell us about that.
And it's, the difference is it is like a corporation, so we're not electing these people to do this. So there's all sorts of things they can do. They can annex property and land, including water rights and underground water rights. They can exercise eminent domain or condemn certain property. There is talk about situations where the way that things are set up now, it's going to be possible for districts to basically spread their borders across state borders. So now you have a district that's sharing 2 states. So they're in a way eroding state borders, which is what the globalists are wanting.
Right.
So, so one of the districts is called a public infrastructure district, and it's basically they're able to enter into bonds and get funding. They can levy taxes for themselves. In a lot of situations, you're basically, the way that they do the bonds, it's basically tax-free for them, but then they get those funds repaid through property tax. So it's basically like you're paying double in property taxes or more. So they can get funding, levy taxes, enter bonds, practice eminent domain, all of these things basically for public infrastructure, all,
Right.
for the betterment of the public, supposedly. So these special public infrastructure districts, again, they came out and said specifically that 3 of the development authorities are the Utah Inland Port and the Point of the Mountain. So again, if you haven't watched those videos, go watch those. But those both, again, are being pushed by Envision Utah, and then the Military Installation Development Authority, or MIDA, and that could be a whole episode in itself, but it's basically a police state run.
Yeah, check out the video we did on the 15-minute cities.
Yeah.
It goes through that.
Yes. So let's see here. For infrastructure and improvements, including water infrastructure, so everyone's aware. And here is, so again, the Point of the Mountain Land Authority, HB 372. This is what I believe created the authority. Jerry Stevenson, if you remember from last time, they helped create this, and then he also sits on the board and runs it. So huge conflict of interest the way they're creating these boards, and then sitting on the boards and bringing in their nonprofits like Envision Utah that they board and creating these public-private partnerships. So again, they're an independent, nonprofit, separate body, corporate politic.
You can make a lot of money in politics if you play it right.
We're
doing it all wrong.
We've talked to a lot of elected officials who told us they've gotten a pay cut, though.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, Utah County, our elected officials just voted to raise their pay. So
Yes,
everyone in Utah County, they're doing.
Well, I will give a shout out to Tom Sakovich. He actually was the one that said no. So
one of the 3 commissioners.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, he's
he's
a
great.
good one. He is a
Tom
good
is
one.
great.
We miss Billy.
Yeah.
Definitely
miss
miss
you,
Bill
Bill.
Lee. That's what happens when you stand up.
Yep.
Try to do the right thing.
Okay, and then they basically they have all the powers of local districts as well, so basically same as municipalities. So each public infrastructure district is governed by and has the powers stated in this chapter and the power of all local districts. We'll move on. And okay, so this is where we have a bunch of different types of districts, but this is where you can see in the 2023 legislative session, they changed local district to special district. And we found out that in order, the fact that they did that brought in federal funding. That's what they needed for federal funding.
Right.
So now we've got them involved with.
So words matter. Words, verbiage, everything matters.
One word. So, and this is the National Association of Home Builders, which we know real estate mafia and developers. We've got a lot of legislators that are part of that, talking about better way to finance public improvements and introduction to special district financing. So there's a lot of money to be made for those involved. Again, they can levy and collect taxes, enter contracts, create and issue bonds, annex land or property, and exercise eminent domain. So here was an article that came out when the public infrastructure districts first were kind of well known. The people were concerned. It says a new form of local government known as a public infrastructure district raised major concerns from Harriman City Council members at their most recent meeting. And they kind of talk about the financing and the property taxes doubling. And
by the way, if you're following along, go down to the show notes. We'll have all these links there. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, here's the Utah Inland Port Authority talking about one of the bonds that they've successfully closed, and this one was for $150 million.
Like you said in like a Dr. Evil voice.
Did I?
$150
million. Okay. Just so you're aware, we kind of talked about last time, these public-private partnerships, but how they're bringing all three branches of government together. So not only do we have state and federal working together, but then we have state and local working together, and then we have all three branches sitting on boards. So huge conflict of interest. Constitution prohibits this for checks and balances. Brad Wilson got a bill passed this last 2023 session called Elected Official Education, HB 512. And basically it is to have state education training for local and state governments. So they're training our local government that we've elected on what to be doing. It's not supposed to work that way.
No.
And he flat out said when he presented the bill that this is going to be a way for all of our elected officials to get their information from one source.
That's right.
Education, what could go wrong?
Right. And we see that with the evidence-based and research-based and the science with, COVID and all of it. Get your information from one source. So, and then he talked about bringing the real estate associations in and the Utah League of Cities and Towns in on these discussions as well. So, let's see here. Okay. Current legislation that was passed in 2023, and we are going to get into this, basically talks about the transit reinvestment zones, where they are requiring counties to encourage the affordable housing and transit systems. And again, go back and watch the 15-minute city video to understand kind of the threat with that. But they're pushing the transit. They want to electrify everything, and we'll get into that a little bit later, and the affordable housing. And then specifically, can see here walking communities. So again, the 15-minute cities. A housing and transit reinvestment zone proposal created under this part shall promote the following objectives: the higher utilization of public transit, which we did sit and listen to legislators and the groups that were presenting talk about how they want the focus to be less on the car and more on the transit. And they're trying to figure out ways to have the public use the transit more, to push us to use the transit more. So, originally it was, because of traffic, we need it, it's what the public wanted. And now they're trying to figure out ways to get us to use it more while also making that the focus instead of cars. So
it's like what they do, once a month, every couple of months, the free fare Fridays or something that they do. Mm-hmm. And it's not really free, though. I mean, we're
incentives. Well, yeah, we're
taxpayer.
Guys, anytime it's free, you're paying for it. Just a friendly reminder there. And we're going to talk about incentives and stuff in a minute here. But also increasing the availability of housing, including affordable housing, and the fulfillment of moderate housing, transportation, but including walkability of communities near the public transit facilities. So again, the 15-minute cities.
We were at a city commission meeting in Lehigh. This was at least a year or two ago. And they were talking about all these exciting developments they had. And they said, well, that's why people are moving to Lehigh, is because they want a New York City experience. And I'm sitting there as a New York City refugee, I guess. And I'm thinking to myself, I did not move to Utah for the New York City experience. I don't want to have a walkable. I came here because I wanted to have room to run around and have space, not to be stacked on top of each other. And looking for walkable communities. So I'd be very curious about the research they've done to say, oh, people want these walkable cities.
Well, that's the funny thing is you hear Envision Utah and these groups talk a lot about the surveys that they've done. I have never been approached to take one of these surveys.
I mean, it's the same thing with the flag.
Right.
They do what they want to do, and then they just say, we want it.
They've interviewed 50 people and
50 of their friends.
50 of their friends. And so
50 people involved with the project.
yeah. Well, and again, you hear them talk on a national level about how much Utah loves ranked choice voting. No, we don't.
Yeah.
So they like to speak for us. Okay.
All right, this is where it gets good.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of sidetrack for just a minute. I know I mentioned the affordable housing and transport, and there's a lot that I want to get into with that as well.
But this is what I want to get into.
Yeah,
I like
so
this.
if we have time after these documents, we'll get into that. If not, we'll just save it for next time.
Yeah.
But we're going to drop more names and tax forms and stuff with that too. So
Bring it.
let's see here. Okay, so this is from the Brookings Mountain West Institute at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And basically what they've done is they've created a document where they analyze, it's called the Utah Model, Lessons for Regional Planning.
This is awesome.
Right. It's basically a analysis of Envision Utah specifically and how successfully they have basically manipulated the people into implementing these global agendas.
So this is where I talk about, at the beginning of the show, we talk about culture. And how our culture has been, this is straight manipulation. Mm-hmm. So you want to figure out how did we change from a state of people who cared about freedom and very patriotic people to a bunch of sheep? We've been manipulated. And this is a document done to basically showing how successful the Envision Utah has been at manipulating the people.
Yes.
Let's go. This is
and
awesome.
Then we're going to get into their own documents, Envision Utah's, to show you the process.
This is nuts.
Okay. So they call it the Utah Model of Collaborative Planning. Again, this is by the institution, all this, right? Their analysis. Envision Utah found success by not only tapping into people's shared values and aspirations, but also because of its significant public engagement, use of convincing, unbiased data to demonstrate the need to work regionally, and ability to garner broad buy-in from important stakeholders in the community. Just so you're aware, and you'll see this when we get to their documents, but Envision Utah, what they do is they have kind of a model, a system where they do surveys, they get input from the public on what it is they want, their values for the community,
This
what
is
makes
marketing.
them
It's
right, marketing for the things that the people are looking for, and then they put those into positive, pretty fluff words to make you think that that's what they're offering. Right. They engage with the stakeholders. They put these scenarios together. Then they give you these if-then statements. So if you do this, then
which you show right in here.
Right, and we'll get to that. But they basically use your own words and what you want and what you're scared of to create those scenarios saying, well, if you did this, these things you're scared of are going to happen. If you do this, these things you want.
It's manipulation.
Right. So this is kind of what they're talking about. The 4 things that they talk about Envision Utah doing: pay attention to the sustainability and basically how they want to model after this to implement this in their areas, right? So these are the things they should do that Envision Utah does. Pay attention to the sustainability and capacity of the leading organization, arm the public with clear data and analysis, skillfully marketed, package all proposals and principles to appeal to their values of the community, and spend time initiating and maintaining the right political setup. Utah may be the last place, quote by them, may be the last place that comes to mind when one thinks about national innovation and leadership in regional planning. As a highly conservative state, Utah boasts a staunch property rights faction along with a true Western disdain for all things related to government control. With its strident skepticism of global climate change and jealous regard for local control of all land use decisions, it would be surprising if Utah surpassed more liberal locals in its progress on regional cooperation and its adoption of quality growth ideas. And yet, that is what has happened.
Crazy.
Other states are watching us be manipulated.
I hope you guys just read that. That's insane.
It's a jealous regard for local.
Jealous.
I mean, but this is what I'm talking about. You would never expect this stuff in Utah.
Yeah.
And yet we are leading, and this is why, because nobody knows. So let's go. This is phenomenal content.
Yeah. Utah, let's see, I just read that one of the largest smart growth Again, the smart growth, go watch other videos. Planned developments in the U.S. is taking shape on 95,000 acres of Salt Lake's west side. Cities all over the region are...
this is the UN stuff. This is the World Economic Forum smart cities.
Mm-hmm. Cities all over the region are developing plans for transit-oriented development, again, being pushed by UN and World Economic Forum, and dense town centers, along with the policy and zoning changes needed to support them.
Okay, this is coming out of that UNLV article.
Yeah.
This is a UNLV article talking about Utah and a progressive article talking about how brilliantly Utah has manipulated the people.
Yeah. So that
through Envision Utah.
Talking about using, they call it the Utah model, using Envision Utah's model.
They got it wrong. It's actually called the Utah way.
Right.
That's what, when you listen to your representative say, this is the Utah way. That's what they're talking about. Okay, go on.
Yeah. All this suggests that the Utah model of regional planning works. But what is that model exactly? The paper describes the Utah model as the specific techniques of consensus-based regional planning initially created by leaders of Envision Utah, which we went over in part 1. A nonprofit organization started in 1997 to deal with growth-related challenges facing the region, and which now permeate most of the state's regional planning efforts. Instead, the model has used a combination of political savvy and public education to effect a shift in the attitudes that people have about sprawl. Instead of being on the receiving end of a regional authority, most public entities have voluntarily and on their own timeable adopted new zoning or other regulation that encourages choice in the housing market, including affordable housing and multifamily housing, denser and more connected neighborhoods, as well as a transit-oriented development coordinated with the construction of the transit system. This sea change in attitude is coming from the public as well as the professional planners, is backed up by the support from many developers, and has been incentivized by pre-existing state and regional transportation planning entities, the Utah Transit Authority, which is connected to the, partnered with the Utah Department of Transportation, which is responsible for the digital delivery throughout the entire state, and the 2 metropolitan planning organizations, the Wasatch Front Regional Council and the Mountainland Association of Governments. So there's those association of governments again, which aren't really all elected officials in government. Let's see here. Can other regions match the success in their own planning efforts? Although there are many different forms of regional planning and governance, the lessons that transfer most clearly to other places are applicable in all of them. So pay attention to
So Utah is going to be the model for other states and how to manipulate the people and get the people that want to be enslaved.
Yeah. Envision Utah has managed to stay on target for almost 18 years by continuous organizational capacity building, continuous public engagement. And that's a big thing with the World Economic Forum is they talk about getting the public engaged and involved, getting us to buy in to our own prison system, basically. What better than to have us help build it and make it easy for them? It requires effective ongoing public relations and sophisticated representation of reliable, complex, and convincing data. Envision Utah conducts a professional survey of the local values before beginning any particular project. The results are used to tailor the language of the public process and frame the proposals and principles so that they are widely acceptable. And then it's spend time initiating and maintaining the right political setup. Although the Utah model is known for its inclusive processes, getting the buy-in of key grassroots players before starting the process has been a formula for minimizing resistance.
What's grassroots?
I think they meant grassroots. Yeah, I think they meant grassroots. If they meant brass, I don't know what that is, but they want us helping to implement this. But they do this before starting the process using their formula that we've talked about for minimizing resistance.
Maybe brass is somewhat authority, and it's a play on words of grass because grass is from the people and brass is from the authorities.
I think that makes sense.
That's possible because notice how it's in quotations.
Yep.
One of the things that I haven't really pointed this out, but if you go back in some of the other episodes we do and you look at some of the slides, you'll see certain phrases and words in quotations. And they do that intentionally because they know it's a manipulative phrase. Even they quote it, and it's like they're showing you that they're doing it, but people don't catch on. Yeah. So you're probably right. I already read this.
But that's it. Package all proposals and principles to appeal to the values of the community. And that's where Utah is so easy to manipulate, because we have such strong values, such a strong value system of being good neighbors, of being kind, of being generous, of being, trusting.
Yeah.
And so they use those words and those values to manipulate us.
Yep. Let's see here. Oh, see, I made these bigger. To summarize, Utah, through the efforts of Envision Utah, has become an unlikely leader in regional planning developed through a voluntary partnership of key leaders, agencies, local government, and the general public. Lessons drawn from Envision Utah's regional visioning process, which we're going to get into, can inform and guide the efforts of other regions as they work towards implementing regional policies that will support the economic vitality and livability of their regions.
So I think a good example of this is Governor Cox. You brought him up earlier. The flag thing, which is an issue happening right now. We know Cox is behind the new flag. And one of the ways you can see him manipulate culture is he says, wow, there's been so much spirited debate on this. And I love to see all the different people coming up and getting involved. And he uses his cute little gay voice.
Yeah.
And
Can't say that.
Edit that out.
if you want, or it is. Saying it like it is. But then he comes and says, but some of these people are so contentious. And and some of these people on the extreme are so contentious. But he uses that. He uses they're contentious. Like, in other words, that's bad.
Yeah.
And so it's manipulating the culture, because then the people in the culture say, oh, contention's bad. Therefore, challenging the governor and the flag is bad.
Yeah. And you see it with, the critical race there and everything else. It's, that's racist. It's all wordplay and word salad that they use.
But Utah has its own special ones. I mean, the racist works for most of America, but Utah has its own, like, contention. We don't want to be contentious. We need to be nice. We need to be tolerant. We need to be
kind.
Be kind. So
and community values.
Right. So Utah, they're very good at manipulating the culture of Utah.
The Utah way.
The Utah way.
Okay, so this is an audit that was done by the state on Envision Utah in 2000. And again, we have the Smart Utah Foundation as well. In addition to receiving some state support, the three organizations are similar. So they're talking about the, I think the Western Government Association, Smart Utah Foundation, and Envision Utah. All are nonprofit organizations that fuse government agencies with private corporations, public-private partnerships. Toward this end, all have promoted themselves or have been described in the media as public-private partnerships. Each has been supported and promoted as new and innovative, and catch appears to provide benefits to the citizens of Utah. Finally, each organization has nebulous finding due to joint work with state agencies. So again, just to remind everybody, if you watch part 1, the media again sits on the board of Envision Utah and a lot of these agencies.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Which is why this stuff has to get out, because the media will never talk about it. The media's in on it. And which is why the media pushes the Utah way, pushes the whole narrative of kindness, of all the little Utah buzzwords that keeps people asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of fighting for what we know is right, we're willing to accept things that are, bringing the light down, bringing God down, and bringing our freedoms and Constitution down for the sake of being kind.
Yes.
So Smart Utah educates citizens, about electronic commerce and electronic government. They've had over $900,000 in funding. I think this was
2002. So
this audit was in 2000. This was just between 1995 and 1997, so almost $1 million in a 2-year time frame. So they're getting lots of government funding. Okay, so again, this is done by the auditor. Envision Utah favors incentives for compliance to its strategy rather than mandates.
In other words, bribe.
Yeah. Envision Utah has not lobbied for mandates. They do lobby for policy, but not for mandates. They don't do that to enforce its strategy. Rather, it favors offering incentives for compliance, whether it's legislators or the public. And they like to offer grants and subsidies as if it's, your tax dollars, as if it's theirs to give to you right?
So generous.
Envision Utah has provided benefits to the citizens of Utah. The Envision Utah process has increased the focus and discussion on growth issues in the state of Utah, while some critics Okay, so again, this was back in 2000 and people were noticing this back then. While some critics argue that the organization has attempted to promote a hidden agenda, it has created a forum for valuable discussion. Let's see here. It was created, I don't remember what QGET is, but it was created for Envision Utah. It's now available to government agencies. Finally, Envision Utah has secured some federal grants that have been shared with state agencies. The most significant was a transportation and community and systems preservation pilot program. So again, the transport, Cox has brought federal transport in, and then we've got the pilot. Utah is the pilot program state. And when they can't get things implemented through policy, they just create a pilot program for it. So
that's how ranked choice voting got started in here too, was a pilot program.
And they just extend the sunset date and it never goes away, right? A grant from the Federal Highway Administration. Envision Utah received $200,000, another $225,000. Anyway, shared money with several other agencies. Okay, so now we get to Envision Utah and their specific documents on everything we were just talking about. Okay. This is the Regional Visioning Guidebook. And mapping the course for successful community engaged scenario planning. Okay, so a clear set of principles developed through a broad community process and incorporated into the comprehensive plan can provide a framework for determining whether proposed developments fit with the desired community character and help achieve the community's economic, environmental, and social goals. That is ESG. Right? Scenario planning helps the public and today's decision makers understand the long-term consequences. The consequences they want you to think are there of the choices they make now.
And this is all current stuff that's on the website now for Envision Utah.
This is current.
Yep. As part of the Sustainable Communities Grant Program, and again, Sustainable Communities is the UN agenda, their Sustainable Development Goal number 11, Envision Utah was selected as the leading team to build capacity in scenario planning processes, tools, and techniques. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan, public-private partnership that facilitates informed public involvement to explore land use, transportation, and environmental solutions to the challenges presented by growth. Led by a diverse and influential board, Envision Utah's open, this not so transparent grassroots approach inspires trust. So it inspires trust.
And it has done that. People trust it.
They want us to think, it gives us a voice, and draws on public values, research, scenario analysis, and powerful technology and community visioning.
What's wild is she's going to show you how they actually find our values. Like this is straight marketing. I mean, this is straight manipulation. I mean, this is what they've done to manipulate the people is it's incredible. I mean, what they've put into it. It's a business. It's literally a business that has invested brilliant marketers to figure out how to manipulate the people of Utah so that we could be the test state for the UN.
Yep.
I mean, that's what's crazy. It's not a conspiracy. This is so radical what they're doing that it's almost unbelievable. You think it must be a conspiracy. But yet right here, this is Envision's own website. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so their values, again, they'll do surveys and they will try to, they get you to determine your fears and what you want. And then they, through a process of like laddering questions and answers. So they'll ask a question. When you give your answer, they kind of guide and direct the next question to get you to a point of where you're telling them in your own words what you want. So I want to feel secure or safe in my community.
And they do this for enough people in the community that they understand what the community's fears are, what their concerns are, and then they know how to handle the messaging to get to manipulate the people.
And they use the words that you use.
Right.
They specifically pay attention to the words that you use.
Which is why you hear the governor using words that are very Utah.
Yes.
Because it is literally the Utah way.
Right. So then they engage with the stakeholders and they gather data and they create these scenarios, these if-then scenarios, which I'll show you. But here you see they get with the stakeholders to fine-tune the public message. And then they do storytelling. So they construct a narrative of the preferred scenario that communicates future vision. Communicate the goals, strategies, and tactics to successfully implement your vision. This is Envision Utah's vision, not public's vision, by the way. provide recommendations to policymakers.
Well, many of them are.
Yeah, exactly. Values research is used to identify and frame the issues to be included in the visioning process, select key scenario measurements, which we'll get into, communicate choices and kind of the consequences of those choices, and if you need to change your attitude or the way you think about it, and explain the vision and its benefits in ways that are personally relevant. Explain its benefits in ways that are personally relevant and carry emotional impact. Values research is, did I do this twice? Sorry, I did it twice. Okay, so here, in many communities, common values include, so these are phrases that they've got from you in these surveys, like phrases and sentences or words that you have used. Personal security, peace of mind, family love, belonging, which we see that a lot in Utah in the education system, belonging, accomplishment, and freedom. What's the difference between values research and a survey? Surveys tell you what people care about or want in their lives. Values research not only tells you what people want, but also why people care about or want it, and the words they use to describe why. Without the why, you can't make your message personally relevant and emotionally impactful.
So one of the things you'll notice is there's a lot of organizations, media. You'll notice they use a lot of this phraseology, these
buzzwords,
these buzzwords here in Utah, because again, they've been taught, and a lot of them are on this. Most of them are on the board. These organizations, media, and they're pushing that narrative. That's why you're going to hear those words through a lot of organizations and the media.
And the whole transgender push in the schools. It's to the kids, we have a group where you can belong.
Right. They use the same buzzwords to get them to accept whatever we give them.
Yeah. Values research starts by understanding what regional attributes or characteristics have the greatest impact on quality of life through a series of values laddering interviews. So the question answer thing with key members of your community. These one-on-one laddering interviews explore in depth the thought patterns and associations people hold about a particular subject. From there, the research identifies the functional and emotional benefits that result when those things are present or absent in one's life. And finally, the research results are mapped to show connections between attributes and the interviewee's personal values. So basically what they want to do with the infrastructure in our education or health system, they map that out and they show connections to your personal values, right? Understanding the linkages between levels is critical to crafting effective communications, positioning, and messages. After identifying the values, they are then, quote, tested by conducting a statistical survey with the public that prioritizes the values and helps determine which values matter most to your community. So here's the questioning, kind of where they guide your questions and answers. Utilizing a specialized research methodology called Values and Strategy Assessment, or VISTA, Whirlin conducted over 80 in-depth laddering interviews around Envision Utah's 10-county area of focus to find out what residents value about living in Utah, with the objective to guide the public, community leaders, and policymakers in making, quote-unquote, better informed, decisions. Sorry, I cut that off. The original question begins at the bottom with focus on the attribute. Through probing questions, the answers are provided that eventually work their way through functional consequences and personal consequences, which is the if-then that we'll get into. Finally, to the individual's personal value behind the original answer. This exercise is done for both the positive and negative attributes people identify in their community. The values laddering helps to identify each respondent's pathways or evolution of thought.
So,
go ahead, baby.
I was just curious. So this is survey work that they were doing, right? What is their survey group that they're these focus groups? Are these, I'm assuming, all adults or
definitely probably a very expansive focus group. I'm sure they spend a lot of time and money on this.
Yeah.
And this is why for us, like when we're running for office or this content, what did they use to try to take us down when we were running for office?
This is not the Utah way. These outsiders.
Oh, they're mean.
Yeah.
Jason's mean, and it's contentious.
Well, and then they tried to call us porn stars too, but probably did a focus group on that one also.
Yeah.
But no, again, it's they use they find the keywords. What are the things that people in Utah are, they don't like meanness. They like kindness. So let's brand this content, this podcast, this brand. Oh, it's mean. It's contentious. Oh, it's extremist. But it's not just words they just pull out of their hat. I mean, they do this research, and that's why you see the governor, you see all these different politicians, they'll use those same words. Anyone that tries to bring up information to call them out, they'll use those buzzwords that the media that doesn't even know they're being, or that the public that doesn't even know they're being manipulated.
Yeah.
They're using buzzwords to specifically trigger them
emotionally
to say, oh, we shouldn't watch this content. Oh, he wouldn't be a good representative because he's mean. What did he do as mean? He simply called out corruption.
Yeah.
He pointed out problems.
But then they did a focus group and they realized that people actually wanted a fighter. And then it was interesting, the Curtis campaign, it became the quiet fighter.
But again, what they do, they use the keyword quiet, nice the nice fighter.
Yeah.
And you hear community values a lot. And it's like, but it's not our values, it's their values and what they want to implement. But again, the whole, the transgender stuff, again, like, be kind.
Right, because
your community values are to be kind and accepting and foster a sense of
100%.
belonging.
But what about values of truth?
Right.
What about values of freedom?
Yeah, they don't want to talk about those.
Right, those values are not pushed down on us because those values would alert people to them.
Right.
So it's we're gonna elevate certain values above all others. So niceness, contention are far more important than truth and destroying, ruining your kids' lives and pushing homosexuality and pushing these puberty blockers and mutilating these kids and destroying our borders and actually destroying our dollar and collapsing the country. Those all fall below the highest value, which the highest value is kindness and let's all get along. Those are the most important things to focus on. All these other things they're less important. That's the way that we're being manipulated, and sadly, the people can't see through it,
right?
Because they've done this. Because this work that they've done, this is brilliance. I mean, this is darkness. This is darkness at its most brilliant level.
Yeah.
Although if they did a focus group in Florida and they said we were porn stars, we'd probably be elected.
Yeah. Well, and they'll even use words like.
Thank you, Alexia.
I'm still thinking about that, apparently.
All right, Alexia.
They'll use words like freedom and, freedom in choice for housing to push in affordable housing.
Yes.
Or opportunity, more chances of, opportunity and choices for the transit system, though they don't tell you that they're getting rid of cars.
Right.
Or it's like school choice, where it's not really, yes, you have a choice, but
eventually
until we tell you what you can, you have to use the funding for, you don't get it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got here?
Okay, so this is the word. You can kind of see how the words, all the words that they collect from you, spin off of each other into kind of a vision that they can create. And again, they take your values and put them into commonly used words. When communicating about the process, it's important to communicate using the community's words.
And ironically, again, who's on the board here? All the major media is on the board of Envision Utah.
media, legislators,
and your legislators, your reps. So again, you have your media, you have your legislators, you have all your influencers all pushing the same thing. And this is the blueprint of what they're doing in their own words.
Mm-hmm. And then understanding values of Utahns help to shape the future scenario development. So the scenarios we'll talk about in just a second. And those scenarios were modeled to determine the impacts of certain decisions on community values. This talks about them creating scenarios where they have a better understanding of the impacts of their decisions, and talking about how so in a situation they were able to reevaluate those decisions after they were done manipulating them, to determine if the community was headed toward a desired future. I don't want to I know we're kind of getting close to time, so I'm not going to read all of these, but you can pause and read them if you want. But here's some of the words that they use. Peace of mind, feel safe, the people, save time, right? So have the transit right near you, and 15-minute city, everything right there. Okay, so these words now, this is how the World Economic Forum, this is a white paper for their ESG, and this is how they sell ESG, is the same way, this value system. And this is where you start to hear inclusive, right? Inclusivity, diversity, equity. Okay, so here's the scenarios, the if, then. Let me bring up an example here. If our population doubles and we protect our watershed, then we enhance our recreational recreational opportunities, which is the positive
Right.
words that they got from you, and preserve our drinking water. If we don't protect our watershed, then we compromise our drinking water and love our canyons to death. So they must have gotten in that area how much they love their canyons and hiking and recreation, right?
Just what sticks out to me here is the boldness, the brashness of these people, that they're so confident in the way they've been able to manipulate the people that they're putting it. It's right there on their website. It's right out there in the open to teach other states how to manipulate their people. I mean, it's like, this is how you do it. You do all the research, and then here's an example of how you manipulate it, the research you've done into scenarios. If this, then this. This is a playbook that Envision Utah is giving to the rest of the world, how to create your 50, how to integrate into this digital or surveillance state.
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't we expose this a while back for elections, that Utah was the state where they were then going out and teaching other states?
Oh, yeah. Mail-in, where did mail-in voting, Utah's the start of all that. Utah's the hub for a lot of the fraud that's come out.
Yeah. If we double our population and change our growth pattern, then we will preserve our character and quality of life in Cache Valley. If we double our population and don't change our growth pattern, then we will lose the character and quality of life we enjoy in our valley.
Character and quality must have been great buzzwords.
Yeah. Use the Framing Community Issues worksheet to help frame your community's issues with if-then statements.
There's
a little tip for them.
Here is the Tyrant's work playbook.
Tyrant's Guide to Being Tyrants.
This is the playbook for secret combinations. Literally.
So this is how they communicate the message. As part of annual public awareness campaigns. And that's another thing, you guys, is they're using our tax dollars in bills that our legislators are passing to do these education campaigns where they get to use our money to manipulate us and, quote unquote, educate us on how we should feel or think about implementing these things or not.
And back to elections again. Remember the lieutenant governor's response to election integrity?
Yes. When after people said, hey, there's a concern, we're concerned. And then they said, we don't have money for it to fix it. We don't have money for audits. And then she comes around and says, well, the real problem is not election integrity. The real problem is misinformation in the public. We need to invest in educating the public. And then a year later, you see billboards across the state on how secure our elections are.
I guess we've been educated enough.
We're educated now. All right, go on. I don't want to run out of time.
Okay. Envision Utah coordinated newspaper advertisements, guest op-eds, and television and radio spots, which, again, they sit on the board. So to help educate the public.
Deseret News is in on it.
Yes,
and
they
KSL
are.
And all of them.
Yeah. And Tribune, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously.
Yeah, Tribune.
I actually think Tribune's the least of my concerns. I'm more concerned about the Deseret News because at least the Tribune is bad.
I mean,
the
the
Deseret News and the
reputation
KSL are worse because they're the wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. Let's see, to educate the public about pertinent issues and their possible consequences. Educating residents is critical for informed public participation in the planning process. A good working relationship with local media has resulted in ongoing news coverage of our process and has provided residents with regular process updates. Baseline scenario tells a story of how regions and communities may change over time if current policies and practices continue. So this is the scenario baselines. Baseline projection helps participants in a visioning process ask themselves if the community is heading toward its desired future or if some changes are in order. Key phases of community engagement include building overall community awareness or trust and buy-in, gathering information through workshops and other means. So to answer your question, Alexia, yeah, they do. They'll do surveys. They will also do the, what'd you call it again?
Focus groups and like workshops where you'll have like the public come in and look at the scenarios once they've developed them and like put a chip on which scenario they want. And yeah, you think that you're actually, as the public engaging, making the decisions when you don't know they've manipulated all those scenarios. Help inform and shape the process. Widespread community engagement builds momentum for implementation. So here's just a few, like an example of a finished product that they've come out with.
enhance existing towns and cities, and maintain individual community identity by encouraging inward growth and more compact development and buffering community boundaries with agrarian and natural lands. So, natural. But again, that's the compact high-density housing, pushing you towards 15-minute cities. Encourage mixed-use neighborhoods and town centers that include a variety of housing options that allow there's your housing options that allow individuals and families to live close to where they shop, obtain services, go to school, work, and play. 15-minute cities.
And I love the word that allow.
That allow. They are allowing us to. 15-minute cities.
Sounds like a great place to live. Sign me up.
Develop clean and sustainable industry and good paying jobs close to home. Provide a balanced transportation network with improved roadway connections, enhanced public transportation options, and streets that encourage bicyclists and pedestrian mobility. So again, getting rid of our cars, 15 minutes.
Balanced, a balanced, not extreme, balanced transportation.
Yeah.
The words are beautiful here. I mean, obviously this is really brilliant.
Yeah. Protect, preserve, and improve air quality, water quality, wildlife habitat, agricultural land, and scenic beauty of Cache Valley. So let's protect the air. Let's go green, right? Maintain and improve access to recreation. Expand local recreational systems, providing small parks located near where people live and linked by trails for walking and biking. So again, the walking 15-minute communities. Close coordination among local government, school districts, universities. So it's all of this was pushed towards a 15-city scenario, but all using the words that they got from the public, right?
Right. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So they bring in municipalities. So again, straight from their own document. So mayors, local, you'll see Envision Utah all the time, whether it's water, education, health, infrastructure, energy, at your cities and counties, talking about these plans and agendas.
The schools, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nonprofits, and you'll see here youth groups. A lot of these youth groups are like the racial justice, social justice, activists type groups. Congressional liaisons, the public sector, so like the health department, state legislature, and state departments.
Didn't see that coming.
And of course the transportation department. I know, right? So again, one of their fostering a sense of place and local identity, increasing transportation access, improving access to opportunity. So I know we're kind of getting close on time here. This is one of kind of the finished white paper products for the transportation. Utahns envision safe communities that make life convenient. So that's what they're going with to push the transit. You've got the goals here and the key strategies. So accommodate all Utahns in a safe, attractive, and neighborly communities. I know we're short on time, so you guys can pause this and read through this. But just notice the same type of language, right?
What are we comparing? What to what?
No, this is just the white paper.
Yeah, this is basically the scenario. After the scenario is kind of like the vision that they put forth, that you guys all helped create, right? And it's all 15-minute city language and affordable housing, high density.
Yeah, you've got it. Right? You've got to go back and watch the 15-minute city. You've got to know who the World Economic Forum is. You have to understand what they're trying to do here, what these global new world order, what they're trying to create.
Yeah. Benefits of centers, the state of parking. You can pause and read this too, but enhanced health, more options for clean, efficient, and convenient travel. Talks about how we really don't use our cars that much. And they've actually talked about, with these public infrastructure districts, reducing the amount of required parking that would be necessary. So pushing us out of using cars by not even allowing like the parking spaces that we're used to. Right. And you'll start to see, we have to pay for parking more and more.
I think you actually sent something to us not too long ago where it was doing the analysis of parking lots. I'm like, oh, we don't really use parking lots really that well.
We don't really use them.
I'm like, have you been to a Vasa parking lot?
I can never find a spot.
Yeah, literally. We're not using parking lots.
So what Utahns are willing to do, because they get you to buy into this, to achieve these goals, Utahns are willing to design communities to be more convenient for pedestrians and cyclists, even if driving becomes slightly less convenient.
I mean, what about winter? What about like half of the year? Are they expecting us really to be pedestrians all through winter.
Put on some boots, slave.
They want you on the transit system because, again, 15-minute city, digital ID, ESG, they control when you get to travel. And
I guess they should expand y'all own
So,
nothing and
so
be
it's so
happy.
good they know what Utahns are willing to do. What else we got here?
they're willing to build mixed-use centers with apartments and multi-story buildings distributed throughout urban areas, and they are even willing to have more local traffic congestion if destinations are closer together and overall drive times decrease.
I don't want more congestion. Are you kidding? They didn't pull me. I don't think they pulled most people if they're.
Yeah.
That was
Insane.
yeah.
So this is, Unified Opportunity Commission and our governor. And for the technical analysis, they have the Wasatch Front Regional Council and the Chelcie Gardner Policy Institute. So go back and watch Envision Utah Part 1 involved, right? Local stakeholders. We've got our legislators, and then down at the bottom, us mere peasants, the public at large. Yeah, the public at large, the grassroots movement. Okay, so guiding our growth again. This is they like to call them, your future, your Utah, your area, your Utah. Guiding our growth. This is an Envision Utah group.
That straight up looks like the new flag.
I know, right? Yeah. Just so you're aware, the effort is funded by the generous support of the Utah State Legislature. So thanks for all your tax dollars, guys. And I think, we're pretty much near the end on these documents. This just shows everything they're involved in. So agriculture, air, disaster resilience, education, energy, housing and transport, all of it, water. So we will get more into I know we didn't have time to go over affordable housing and transit. I'm so sorry, but
We'll get into it.
Really wanted to go through those documents so you realize what they are doing and how they're playing with us manipulatively. But we'll get into the affordable housing and transit next time and some of the energy and stuff. So.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this. Appreciate everybody for watching. I'm telling you, my mind is just boggled. My mind's blown. I'm literally just, it's unbelievable. It is really unbelievable. And it's all right there. So, it's just the audacity that they're so bold in what they're doing. Just that they're not even afraid to put it out there. Like this is how, this is the tyrant's blueprint, basically. This is the blueprint for how to have a secret combination, how to take a country's or a state's freedoms away.
Yeah.
So Chelcie, you said this is part 2 of a 4-part series. Can you give us some coming attractions on what we can expect in part 3 and part 4?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to do the affordable housing and transit, obviously, but we'll mix that in with some of what's going on with the energy, and we're gonna do some water updates. I know that there's a lot of people are wondering what's going on with the water. Some of the bills that they passed on the water, they're centralizing power. We're gonna drop some more names. I'm gonna show you some tax documents and kind of how they funnel that money around, and the people involved with that. And then part 4, we're gonna get into and. I apologize ahead of time if we have to go into 5 parts, but we got to make it all fit. But either part 4 or 5 will be the mental health and education. Lisa Logan is amazing. You guys should find her on Twitter and follow her. She's got a lot of stuff on that. But there's a lot of dark stuff going on with the kids, things that people still aren't quite aware of in our state, and the daycares and the mental health system going on and how they've kind of tied that to education. But they are targeting kids sexually now between the ages, it's called 0 to 3. By the age of 3, they want them in that system of, gender identity exploration. And so we're going to get into some of that too, but Envision Utah is very involved with that as well. So, and
from what we heard also since the first episode dropped, Envision Utah has actually got their tentacles in the state flag also. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more for some of our next shows.
Well, I'll leave with a quote from Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
That's what I got you, baby. What do I do? Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. So, this type of corruption happens because nobody's watching, because nobody's aware. That's why they put it out here, because they know nobody pays, because we're so checked out in our phones and being entertained, which is why they, just like the Romans, they want us caught up in the games and in bread and circus, it is time to just take a break from the bread and circus, to check out away from our phones and start paying attention to what's happening to our country, because we can slow these people down. We can throw roadblocks. We can scare the daylights out of them. And I will tell you, these people are afraid of us because they know when enough people wake up that we can stand up and we can stop them.
Yes.
So we are not powerless. We can stop these people. Just this content getting out to enough people, and some of these legislators getting wind that we know what they're up to, you're going to get some people that have cold feet and say, you know what, I don't want to be associated with what's going on. I don't want to be associated with this country. Some of these legislators don't know. Mm-hmm. Some of them don't know the nefarious things happening. So, that's the neat thing. We live in a time where each individual has an ability to shape the future. Yeah. And because we each have the technology to broadcast and to have this information. So we live in a time that is incredibly powerful, where one individual can literally bring down a tyranny, like Alexander Chelcie said. So don't underestimate how powerful you are when you not only but share this content and push it out there and talk to your neighbors. We do have power to take this corruption down. We are not powerless. And what a time to be alive. And thanks for sharing all this. I mean, like I say, my mind is literally blown. And I'm sure same with our listeners. So Chelcie, you're amazing.
Oh,
God bless you. God bless you for, all the time you put into this, all the effort you put into this. We get texts from her at literally 3 a.m, like every other day. And I'm like, does this girl sleep?
No.
She doesn't. But she's doing this for you. So please share, subscribe, get it out there. Talk to your friends. Let's us change culture.
Yeah.
Let us be the ones who take our culture back. Because this is Utah is a culture, and will be again a culture of people who value freedom. That's our culture. We're not a culture of sheep. So till next time, part 3 is coming.
Awesome.
So thank you guys for watching, and God bless everybody, and good night.